The Sharks lose in what can only be described as more devastating fashion. It's brutal. It's so tough. But at least we're here to be your outlet. All that and more on this edition of Teal Town After Dark. But first, if you want to be a part of the show and join the conversation, check us out across all of the social media platforms, the YouTube chat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Reddit, Discord, TikTok, all that and more at tealtownusa.com. And if you want to show us some pittance, you can always support us at Venmo at Teal Town USA. At this point, I don't know what we need anymore. I'm happen to be joined by two other Sharks fans who are just living in the misery with me, trying to make it through. Mr. Ian Reed and Mr. Felix Chow. How are you gentlemen doing this evening?
Go first, Felix.
What is there even to say at this point?
Yeah. I like it's sad, right? Because I'm just laughing because I don't know what else to do at this point. Let me lay some stats out here for you, for my fine folks on the YouTubes tonight. The Sharks are the first team to allow 10 goals in back-to-back games since the Bruins. There's only 4 teams that have done this, by the way, and I don't think any of them happened on color TV, let alone high def. The last time a team has let in 10 goals, it was the 1965 Boston Bruins, who did it in December 2nd and 4th. That seems pretty bad, right?
The 1965 Boston Bruins.
Now, even better, the Sharks' minus 42 goal differential is the worst in NHL history through a team's first games of a season, which I'm assuming, in this many games, I think we're at 11 now. I've lost track. Okay.
Quickly, super chat from Ruben. Give Ian the mic for 5 minutes. I need to see him have a meltdown. We're watching it, ladies and gentlemen. We're watching it.
I mean, if you want me to yell and be mad, although I did say this on another show, then I got really angry. So, I don't know what to do at this point, other than laugh, because this team is so horribly bad. And I think we've come on here, right? And we've come on this show, and I think earlier in the season we came on, we're like, yeah, things are bad, but they're supposed to be bad. This team is designed to lose games, lose a lot of them, and probably win the lottery. But this team is so bad that this is a team that's going to cause the league to change the fucking rules for the lottery again. That's how bad this team is. That's how embarrassing this team is. Because when an original 6 team or an arbitrary 6, whatever your flavor is, when they do it, it's bad, but it's not this bad. But when a team like San Jose does it, oh no, that's going to be an affront to the hockey gods. So to me, this is a team this team is so bad that they are going to cause the rules to change again for the lottery somehow. Because I think as the season progresses, if this doesn't change a little bit, again, I don't think that this team's going to turn around and go on a St. Louis Bluesian winning streak and, march their way to the Stanley Cup final. But on the contrary, they can't lose games by giving up 20 goals in 2 games. This is ridiculous. And I think that you could look at a guy like David Quinn at this point. I know that we've come on this show, on this very channel, on this show, other shows, and we've said, hey, you can't fire David Quinn. Look what he's been given to work with, and this is the plan. But, I mean, let's talk about how this team has been just absolute garbage. Their goalie has been run twice this year, seriously twice. Kakkonen's out now, day to day. Now, again, I don't think Kuzmenko was the guy who hit him, I believe. I don't think that was intentional. But did anyone do anything? No. Freaking Capo Kakinen's like watching fucking birds fly around his head, and he's surrounded by Canucks players who give more of a fuck what's going on with this, like with their goalie, than the fucking guys in Teal did, because they're too busy sulking off the ice because they're down 100-1 again. Like the defense, like on this team, like I don't think this defense core is very good, and it's very green. Like there's a lot of young guys on this defense core, but like the X's and O's are bad.
Denver Doyle, really quickly, thank you very much for the super chat. Worst team in NHL history, Firequin. I think after this show, Ian is. I think Ian is spot on. It's you've got to do something, and 20 goals in 2 games is unacceptable.
And I feel bad for Magnus Krona coming into this game tonight, because Magnus Krona, I tweeted this out earlier, whatever, Zeded or the fuck it is now. This is a guy who I thought he had a good game against Calgary the other day with the Barracuda, but like he's kind of struggled with the Barracuda. So for him to get thrown into this game, like really unfair thing to ask of him, I think, at this point in his development. Like, I feel so bad for Magnus Krona because he had no business being in this game. He's done nothing in the AHL so far other than one good game, which the Barracuda still lost, by the way. Barracuda sitting at 1 win this season. And, so you throw this guy in here who hasn't found his game in the AHL, and now he's got to try and find it against, 4 future Hall of Famers in the NHL. Like, what a fucking mess. And there's no one else, because Maki Niemi has played 1 game and he's vanished off the face of the planet again. So I assume he's injured again. So the Burns trade looking fucking fantastic at this point. It's bad, man. You've got a lot of guys in situations they probably shouldn't be in. But the worst part is like, oh, maybe we should send Eklund down to the Barracuda. Why? The Barracuda are fucking just as bad. You're not saving him from anything else. We're going to send everyone to fucking Wichita to play in the ECHL. Maybe there they'll be sheltered from the mess. I haven't really paid attention to Wichita. I apologize to our friends in Wichita, but like, it's the ECHL. I don't care.
Yeah, Ian, I'm going to give you a quick 30-second break there to get the wind back into the lungs there. Felix, I mean, we've seen how inept this team is. I mean, we have the old logos out tongue in cheek because it reminds us of the 92-93 season. We're all wearing vintage because of that. But
I forgot my sweater on. I apologize.
No worries, Ian. But I at least in 92-93, it was a new team, and you still had the love affair with the idea of having hockey in the city. But at this point, I mean, we saw the tank as we did. Fairly good showing for the team, but I think there's a lot of pomp and circumstance with Pittsburgh and with Erik Karlsson, so a lot of natural boosts there. But what are your feelings on the vibe around, the culture of the team? Where you're feeling the state of the Sharks are. I mean, are you confident that the current regime can do anything, or do you feel as if this is just so bad, even though it is part of the plan to be bad, that this can't continue the way it's going and how bad it is?
So first of all, I just want to start things off by saying I was born in '94, so technically I did not live through those years, but I do know enough. I am familiar with enough Sharks history to know about them. But yeah, no, like this is like I'm not even. I wasn't even kidding. Like when I started right off the hop by saying I don't even know what to say. Like, what is there to say at this point? Because in my view, the Sharks are legitimately this bad. I completely agree with Ian on all points, and this, like, honestly, if I said anything else, I'd just be rehashing points. So it's
rehash away, buddy. Rehash away.
It's just like this can't happen. Like this is honestly, and I know we try not to swear on here, but it's bullshit. Quite frankly, it's fucking bullshit, and it's just like it's like I don't know if like if the culture is just like, I mean, the culture is likely just fucked right now to oblivion, and then the confidence is obviously just not. I like nothing's fucking clicking right
No.
now. Like nothing is fucking clicking, and it's when nothing's clicking, you obviously don't have puck possession. You can't score when you don't have puck possession, and it's just all fucking bad. And so yeah, that's just where I'm at right now.
Thank you so much. Just another Randy G, $20 super chat donation. I feel another matching dono from last game is needed. Props to y'all with dealing for another night of misery. At least Riley Smith won me my fantasy this week.
Hey, there we go.
Hey, you know what? That's the little victories, right? But no, Randy G, we really appreciate it. I mean, every little bit helps. And again, it's going to pay for either alcohol to dull the pain, or for new internet for Puck Guy. So there you go. Yeah, you know where it's going. But Felix, appreciate all what you're echoing there, and I mean, I've been kind of inconspicuously quiet for a show. I'm at a loss because it's.
Go ahead.
You see teams that have been bad before, like a Columbus or like a Philadelphia or like Florida teams of old, where at least there was a semblance of pushback. At least there was some physicality being thrown forth. You got maybe a smattering it for 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there through that game, but I just saw a Penguins team that was old and slow and disrespecting the Sharks. They went in there and they're like, we are, Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, and Erik Karlsson. We have the hardware. We know what we're doing. They looked slow though. And that was the startling thing out of that game was, I think Pittsburgh is going to have a tough time. I think they're going to be a paper tiger. That's just kind of how I feel about Pittsburgh insofar as what they're going to do within their division. However, the way in which they punked the Sharks on the ice tonight, I mean, they just did whatever they wanted. And that's why I'm not even kind of going over, the goals. I'm not going over the game in general because it could have been.
Where do you start?
You could have thrown an AHL team out on there, and they would have. I think
some would argue they have.
No. Any AHL team, and you throw out against the Sharks, and I think I'm going to say at least 70% of the time the AHL team is going to win against this team right now.
This team would lose to an ECHL team. This team might lose to a team in junior hockey.
Yeah, you know what? A good, well-coached Ramparts team or a good London Knights team, I would not put it past them. I would not put it past them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we're getting a little hyperbolic. Like earlier in the chat, let me scroll up here and find it. Churro Man saying, I don't think the CUDA are just as bad as the Sharks. Let's settle down. Okay. I will settle down a little bit. Like the Barracuda haven't been good, but they haven't been this bad either. But I think that there's a lot of concerning things that you can find parallels in between the two games. I think if you watch the defense specifically play on both teams, like there's the same red flags on both clubs right now as far as like the mistakes they're making and the kind of their structure. The Barracuda, like I'm super concerned about the Barracuda right now because again, and I've said this on another show, and I'm going to get the Sharks mad at me again, but I don't really care. I think that you can credit Hasso Plattner for a lot of things. Hasso Plattner, has basically opened the piggy bank as an owner of this team. He's paid for buyouts. He's spent to the cap. Maybe the money that was spent to the cap wasn't spent optimally, but it was spent, right? But a place where I feel like sometimes, like, I don't feel like, I know the Barracuda just got a new building, and I know people are going to scream at me in the chat, Ian, Tex use a brand new building that Hasso Plattner helped pay for, like, so shut up about him not. But, like, look at, man, this is a team that is obviously in the state of a rebuild, right? And in order to, like, the AHL team is going to be very important to this team turning around.
Some would argue
And
even on the ECHL level.
the ECHL team, I don't really care. Like, that's, guys only go to the ECHL when you have too many players and someone has to, like, get.
But what I'm getting at is at every level of the organization, there needs to be a refocus and there needs to be a redoubling of developing players and putting players in a position to win. Teaching fundamental hockey, teaching styles in which complement the players. And I don't think with the core makeup of the Sharks prospects at this juncture, there is enough of what Mike Grier envisions for the team. And I don't think that vision can be executed with the players that they have. So
it's not even that. But here's the thing. So let me finish making the point that I was making.
Sorry,
and then we'll go from there. No, it's okay. It's cool. It's totally cool. Here's the thing, though, right? So what I would have done if I had to basically say, looking at the Barracuda, looking how important they would have to be going forward, would I hire a first-time AHL coach, or would I bring in an experienced guy with experience of developing players? They went with John McCarthy, a guy that was already on the payroll, guy already in the organization. And so far, I mean, the results haven't been good. Like, I know I apparently just want to fire all the coaches right now, but like, if the Barracuda season doesn't turn around, John McCarthy should be also packing his bags, and they should be bringing in a guy with a proven history of development. But the problem is that I don't think the Sharks want to pay big money for their AHL squad. I think that's where the pennies get pinched too much. And I know people are, and I guess, like I said, people are going to come out and say, hey, they built a brand new freaking arena for them. You're wrong. But like, I don't know, man. Like,
you know what, Ian, I want to piggyback off of that thought right there.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like the San Jose Sharks has a general manager in which his sole focus is upon accruing and upon developing players in which match his system. What I wonder if there needs to be is an overall hockey ops president or someone above Grier who can say, okay, yes, the Sharks are the cash cow. They're always going to be the priority. This is what makes us money. But we need to envision a system in which once you're drafted by the Sharks, you're given a complete off-season packet. You're given access to team documents and coaching right from day one, and they need to mimic organizations like a Golden State or organizations like Cardinals of old, in which it's a complete system that they pack around the players and give them the best opportunity to grow and develop into the players in which they select and find that potential. Because right now, the environment in which they're taking talent and they're drafting the talent, I think, is dying on the vine, so to speak. We've seen so many talented prospects in which we feel there's a great A+ tool there that we go and we try and get, and yet there's a big failing that they have as a prospect because of where the Sharks draft. There's always going to be a failing on a prospect, so there's going to be a place in which they're going to develop, and they never seem to really iron out the flaw of the player. So, for instance, I'm thinking of Goldobin, right? He was a guy in which was so creative, a guy you thought just, Datsukian in the mitts department, and that was going to be his A+ tool. But what the Sharks, saw as his weakness was going to be his motivation. It's going to be his drive. It's going to be keeping this player focused and becoming a real professional in the league. And they thought, okay, well, we have a strong culture. We have Joe Thornton. We have this. We have that. Maybe there's too much hubris. Maybe there needs to be more management, or at least a greater, somebody with a mind linked to Hasso Plattner, kind of a guy in which can be his sounding piece, because like you said, he's a guy who is not afraid to loosen the purse strings when it comes to player acquisition and
I mean, like, Hasso Plattner, for those that don't know, is in the top 5 richest owners in the league, which is why I was when people like, oh man, the Sharks are in trouble. I'm like, are they though? Like when you think of like the ownership of the NHL, and he's top 5. He might be number 2.
Yeah. So if you have a guy who's willing to spend the money, you don't doubt that he's got passion for the team, because you've seen the articles that have gotten written about him. He's talked about the KLM line. He's talked about the Detroit and the European hockey players that have come and that he's enjoyed. That there's clearly passion and there's clearly a willingness to spend money. That's great. That's what you want. That's what you want in an owner. But what you need to have is then someone like a Branch Rickey or like a, you would have said Doug Wilson, right? Doug Wilson was supposed to be that guy who was supposed to be the overlord who then could not only shape the vision for the current, but then shape the vision for the future at the same time. He obviously showed that he couldn't balance both of those things at the same time, and had a preponderance for sticking with his own players for too long. And it's human nature. You want to reward the guys that have gone to battle for you. I don't blame him for that. But what I do blame him for is not understanding and not assessing the value of the marketplace, not understanding that these long-term deals are also affected by outside economics, and that an 8-year deal should not be given to a player unless he's coming out of his ELC. That is the only time in which I call for an 8-year deal.
I don't know. See, I think this is something that we do, and I don't mean to do this to you, Landy, but I think we're doing too much of this on this show after games, right? We're too busy rehashing the past. Right?
I'm not.
Like,
I feel like we hashing the past. I want somebody.
I feel like we spend a lot of time on this show now being like, oh, well, if Doug Wilson did this differently, if we didn't sign this guy, then things would have been. I feel like it's just, we know how we got here. I feel like we need to stop. You know what I mean? Like, stop arbitrating how we got here, and deal with the here.
Right, and so my dealing with the here would be to install someone above Greer who can honestly look at the
or parallel,
or no, I think it has to be somebody above Greer who can understand and really focus upon. First, his job would be look at the development system of the Sharks, look at the players in which we draft, understand all of the scouting, all of our camps and what we do as far as how we develop a player. Look at athletic training. Look at all of our programs. Even look at the junior Sharks if you want to even go that far. But as an entire organization, top down, the Sharks sports and entertainment, all of it needs to have an overarching someone. And then Greer, give him the lateral to be like, okay, I'm going to shape and construct the roster to match what I want to be as a player. However, you have someone who can kind of, be like there to be the first firewall before Hasso Plattner, right? Because I don't want Hasso. I don't want anything other than a blank check being given to Hasso and say, Hasso, we've thoroughly vetted everything. You don't need to worry about how we're spending this money. Just sign the check. I'm handling.
Yeah, that's an important thing, because I think that, like, just not to cut you off, but I think it's very important that, it's one thing to have an owner like, sign the checks and do nothing. And I think some people would like Hasso to be a little more vocal or active here, but like, you don't want James Dolan either.
No, exactly. You don't want
Right?
James Dolan. You don't want the Canes owner, right? What the hell is his name? Dumbus or Dubus? No, Dundon. Oh my God.
Dundon.
Yeah, because I think of Dum Dum, right? But Dundon. I mean, you don't want a micromanager, and you don't want somebody completely laissez-faire either. But what you want someone who is got interest, enthusiasm, but can trust that whoever he installs as his hockey ops executive understands his vision for the team, understands how and in which he wants to spend his money, and can be connected to him at the hip. That way, Hasso doesn't have to fly to the States to have to, sign contracts or have to be in on negotiations. He should be the puppet master in the background, sitting behind the nice brown oak table, having his underlings come to him, and at the very end, come out onto the ice, hoist the cup, and then give it to one of his players. That's all he needs to do and sign checks. Okay?
Yeah.
I want an architect.
Sure. Here's the other thing, though. Here's another problem with the organization, though. And someone said, someone in the chat earlier said, no, the chat's going crazy tonight. There's a bunch of people watching. I appreciate everyone watching. If you like what we do, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button so you can help us in the algorithm, and leave a comment if you're watching this after the fact and you think we got something wrong. That being said, I think another problem with the organization is I feel like too many guys have failed upwards. Like maybe I'll make some people angry here, and I think a lot of people are gonna be like, hell yeah, Ian knows what he's talking about. There's gonna be some people that are bad though. What the fuck is Evgeny Nabokov done to be the director of goaltending for the San Jose Sharks? What, goaltending has been a tire fire on both levels since he's been a fucking goalie coach for this team. And yet promoted. And again, and people are saying, oh, well, guys that have a proven record of developing and are usually coaching in the NHL. That's true. But you know what? Not everyone, you can grab an assistant coach. The Sharks are in a perfect position now. David Quinn is the coach right now. And if he somehow manages to keep his job by the end of this calendar year, he's on borrowed time, right? Look at a guy like Jay Woodcroft. Jay Woodcroft was tied at the hip to Todd McClellan forever. And then he went down and he coached in the AHL, and then he got brought up. You could find an assistant coach that you could pull from another team saying, hey, coach our AHL team for now, get started there doing actual head coaching. And then look, when we need a head coach, you're the next guy up. That's how you get a guy who can develop talent in the AHL. But instead, no, we're going to just hire, whoever's already there. The Barracuda have not been very good in pretty much their entire existence. Yet, Roy Sommer gets kicked out, but who gets the job? His left hand, John McCarthy.
There should have been at least, a panel of 10 interviews. I should have seen OHL. I should have seen OHL assistants. I should have seen OHL coaches. I should have seen QMJHL coaches. I should have seen WHL guys. I should have seen NCAA guys. I should have seen
even grab a guy who coached in the NHL. We've seen guys who are former NHL coaches coaching at lower levels of hockey. Grab one of them. They know how to run a bench.
Charles Borner, thank you so much. Just joined, probably obvious, but I think after tonight and before Quinn needs to pack his bags.
Yes, let Felix speak. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Felix.
I was just going to say, I think, though, the common denominator here is former Shark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. No, and I agree. And that's why it always kills me, because, this is the one thing is, too many former Sharks. Why isn't Jumbo coaching the Barracuda?
Well, you know what? But
No. Again, this is an AHL team that's very important to the development of turning this thing around. We don't need another first-time coach, especially Jumbo. Jumbo's like an assistant coach, man. Jumbo's going to be hard on the guys. Jumbo's going to be the bad guy.
No,
Jumbo's
you're
the
right,
Jumbo's the assistant coach, good guy.
So then, yes, I go back to my previous statement and say you look at a guy who's had a track record of developing kids, and look, if you have to go into that fortress that is the London Knights organization and you have to pay literally a king's ransom for their court jester, I don't give a flying F. You look at a team like that with a pedigree, that's who needs to be injected into this organization. I want guys that have some semblance of knowing what it takes to be in a winning organization, know what it takes in order to really develop and live up to your potential. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw, but there was some really nasty articles about coming out about the way in which Ryan Merkley's development was sidetracked with a bunch of off ice things in the Sharks organization. And I stop and I think to myself, I'm like, why would you not have organizational safeguards in place for prospects, especially coveted prospects, in order to develop into not only, good players, but also professionals off the ice as well?
I mean, yeah, you know what? No, I'm not doing it, because I said that once he who should not be named was gone, I would never have to mention him on the show again. I'm not doing it. No, we're not talking about that. I have nothing to say about that, just because I'm not. No,
I'm not going there either.
I made a deal with myself.
Yeah, I'm not going there either. I'm just saying that you look at what was brought in and what needed to occur in order to get some of these prospects to develop in their curves, and there needed to be a fine needle threaded to develop a culture in which those types of players could evolve, and that needle was not threaded with the talent that was brought in and the talent that was retained. So what do you have to do? You have to excise all of that damaged tissue, and I still think that there's a lot of damaged tissue left on the body of the Sharks, necrosis tissue.
I mean, you know what the best part about this is like this year, the one thing we didn't hear this year that we've heard for the past like 6 years, I feel like, and it hasn't been 6 years obviously, but it just feels that way, is like, when are we going to start talking about culture again? Because remember, like, that was like the big thing. We got to change the culture. We got to change the culture. And there's been no talk of the culture this year, when maybe it's when it's been needed most.
You're not wrong.
I don't know, man. Like,
Ricky, Ricky bringing up in the chat that, it's speculative. You don't know what they get and all of this.
Sure.
You're absolutely right. But what I do know is what they're doing right now is not working. And what they're doing right now is producing epic levels of mediocrity, historic levels of mediocrity, minus 42 goal differential. Ian, please sing it again. What's that goal differential through 11 games?
Minus 42, the worst of any team in NHL history through 11 games.
Right.
For those that don't know what that means that the Sharks have given up 42 more goals than they have scored this season.
That means that there's no speculation in how bad this shit is.
Oh, yeah, it's bad.
And that means this team is absolutely just that shit.
So everything needs to be scrutinized. This is where you need to step. Every level in the organization needs to look in the mirror and say, what am I doing to make this better? What am I doing that has led to where we are at now? And how can I improve that going forward? That, honestly, you need to step back and have that retrospective and need to really have your coming to God moment, because minus 42 in 11 games.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to scroll up. Sorry. The chat's like moving a million miles an hour. Sleepy Mofo is letting prospects marinate too long in the AHL. No, here's the problem, right? Is like, the one thing that you have to remember with the Sharks is like they really, last year was the first year where they said, yes, we're rebuilding, like where they legit were trying to get worse, right? That's when they offloaded Burns, and then Timo Meier. Like before that, it was kind of just, same shit, different day. Like they weren't really, yeah, they'd trade off a couple of guys at the deadline to, pick up some picks, but they weren't trying to get rid of any contracts like last year. So like, I know the Sharks have been bad for a while now. I mean, obviously not this bad, but they've been bad for a while. But this thing has just started. Mm-hmm. Like, there's what prospects in the AHL are marinating? Like, they just
like we
had the only guys that they have that are worth a shit are probably Eklund, and I think there's a few other guys in the 2020 class that I like. I think I like guys like Gushkin a little bit. I love Ozzy Weisblatt.
But did we all
not
say
the guys haven't been in the AHL for long enough to marinate at this point? I don't think. I think Eklund's the only guy who's really up right now. Who, and I've liked Eklund's game. I think Eklund works really hard, and I think, I know some people are getting worried about Eklund, and to those people, I would point at a guy like Quinton Byfield. Now, Quinton Byfield, obviously a little bit higher of a pick than Eklund, but not by much. Who's a guy who, this year it looks like he's finally putting it together, and it's actually reflecting on the score sheet. I'm not worried about Eklund at all. I think Eklund's been fine.
Yeah, I mean, Felix, I mean, look, we all felt that contract when given out and the way in which they spent money, we said all of those things are going to add up to, it's going to set the franchise back by 5 years. And we are in year 2 of this.
Yeah, it's not looking pretty, is it, Landy?
No, I mean, honestly, are you telling me it's going to get worse? You know what I mean? How do you? Yeah. Where are your outlooks on the next? How about this? How about let's do a short and then let's do a long term. Well, in the short term, so let's say for the next 10 games, what do you envision for the team? Do you see us getting a win in the next 10 games? I think maybe that's the first question.
What's their schedule?
Do I see us winning? How about I see Pittsburgh would probably get another one before us. I just, to be honest, and I typically do not like to be the Debbie Downer, but holy shit, what the Sharks have shown me thus far in this season has not inspired any confidence at all to say yes to that question.
I mean, their next 3 games are Philly, Edmonton, Vegas. I mean, the Flyers, the Flyers will outplay the Sharks, I think, because the Sharks aren't playing very hard. Edmonton, I mean, I think Pittsburgh hasn't been that good this year. Like, I thought the Sharks would actually have a better showing against Pittsburgh. God, I'm such an idiot for thinking that before this started. I don't think Pittsburgh's a particularly great team. Like, I think there's definitely problems there. Edmonton's having a ton of problems this year, but I feel like at this point, like, Edmonton's going to look like a fucking juggernaut against this team. Like, it's dumb, right? Because it's like we joke, like, oh man, 82-1, go team. But
you know what the situation is right now? The Sharks are literally a fucking meme.
Yeah.
This is like amputation.
I don't know the answer.
This is amputation without anesthesia. Anesthesia.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's hyperbolic, right? But I don't feel like this team is ever going to win another game again. But I mean, obviously, like, that's dumb. Like, eventually they're going to win a game. But fuck. I don't know how.
Show us something, like
there needs to be a real organizational refocus and redoubling of effort. I like I said, they need to have their coming to their creator moment, because at this point it's like, what are you doing? Why even ice a team if you're going to play like that?
Mm-hmm.
At least those Coyote teams of old, like they were horrible to watch, but at least they wouldn't get run up on like this.
I mean, we've seen some and we've seen some bad tanking teams. I can't remember a team this bad. Like, there was that one year, like, Buffalo was, like, the McDavid draft when Buffalo was super bad too. Like just the race to the bottom was brutal. But this Sharks team is worse than that team.
Yeah, Felix, I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, you seen anything like this before? I mean, if you look across the NHL landscape, is there anything that comes to mind in the last, 5 years, 10 years that has mimicked this pain?
So, and I'm gonna bring this to other podcasts that I occasionally sometimes listen to. The SDPN podcast did bring up that whether or not this Sharks team is the worst team of this century, and I believe Dingle brought up maybe the Thrashers might be up there, but I mean, I that's when I literally just got into hockey. But like, I mean, if so, then they're if the Thrashers are not at the tippy top, then I would think the Sharks would have to be in that position.
I mean, but that Thrashers team wasn't like that. Thrashers team was a real expansion team too, though, right? Like, and that's the thing. Like, this is dwarfing like expansion teams when expansion teams were supposed to be asked because you paid 60. You paid what? Peanuts to get into the league, and you got nothing for it, right? You got a first overall pick if you were lucky. Sometimes you did, sometimes you didn't, and like,
that's the thing.
This team is worse than some actual expansion teams. I'm not talking Vegas, Seattle, where paid a bajillion dollars and they got what they paid for.
What if we don't win the draft?
Well, I mean, that's the risk, right? I mean, I was just talking about like how Buffalo was. I think that Buffalo team was worse than that Oilers team, and the Oilers won that lottery. I was joking before this game, before the Penguins waxed us 10-2. I was joking that the Penguins were gonna be in the lottery and push us down with their lottery protected pick. That was my, everyone's like, oh no, because the Oilers are gonna get another first round pick, and I'm like, no. What's the sharkiest thing to happen would be for the Penguins to somehow end up in the lottery and then win the lottery with the pick that they were smart enough to protect top 10 for Erik Karlsson, unlike the Sharks who did not lottery protect their pick for Erik Karlsson, and is the reason why all teams lottery protect their picks now. And watch Tim Stützle go to Ottawa. And again, I don't want to that's just me being a jerk, because I think we've seen a lot of like doom saying about like, oh my God, they're not going to win the lottery and everything's going to be for nothing and they're never going to be good again, whatever. And that really annoys me, but sometimes I just have to get in on the action. Oh no, we lost the lottery and got Jack Eichel. Yeah, I mean there is that, right? Getting Jack Eichel was a nice consolation prize. I mean, and look at the other thing too is like I like the guys who are projected to go top 3. I mean, those are all really good players. So I think the Sharks, even if they somehow lost the lottery and don't get Celebrini, they're going to get a good player. And if the Penguins can get out of the lottery, and not be in the top, not be top 10 picking, I think the Sharks could probably get a really good defenseman with the mid-range pick, between 10 and 20. So I mean, like if you're looking for optimism, things about like rebuilding this team, I think that the Sharks could do a really, if the Penguins, provided they don't end up in the top 10 lottery, like a top 10 pick, I think that the Sharks can get some really nice picks in this coming draft to help turn this thing around and hopefully make all this pain worth it.
But that's the thing though. It's like nothing is for certain in this era of the lottery, and so what is concerning is that, okay, yes, on one hand you're trying to build a team in order to achieve a certain amount of success, putting your drafting and developing in the future, but you also
here's the other thing too though, right? Like if you could name me a Stanley Cup champion other than I think Vegas. Because I think Vegas is the only guy that didn't have a guy that they that was drafted. I mean, I guess they did because they had Jack Eichel, right? Like, show me a team that won a Stanley Cup that doesn't have a top 10 pick on their team in the past. Oh, I don't know. You'd have to go back ways to find one that didn't.
Yeah.
So, like, for all the people that are going to be like, oh, well, tanking doesn't work because of Buffalo and Ottawa. Well, Tampa Bay was super ass for a long time. Yeah. Colorado was super ass not that long ago.
Yeah, but then for all of those examples, Ian, I agree. But then I look at what LA has done, just a little bit south of what San Jose has done, and they've seemed to have thread a pretty fine needle of
They picked Quentin Byfield second overall.
Right.
They're the same thing. Like they're again, like all the teams that have won cups have all rebuilt through the draft. For the past, I don't know. Like I said, you have to go back. I don't have the exact number, but I would say 10 years at least. Last 10 Stanley Cup champions have all built through the draft.
Right. So you're absolutely right. So we think about, had the Sharks protected that pick in the Karlsson trade, where they would be at now.
But again, someone had to make the mistake to make it the norm. The Sharks just happened to be that team. And, again, confidence, like, I know we're not doing it. I'm not doing it. We're not rehashing.
No. I don't want to go.
Not doing it.
I just, again, we're at this point where it's just you have to micro analyze everything because it's so bad. It's
any reason
so
why
bad.
Vegas wasn't penalized like Ottawa? It was Ottawa's fault. It wasn't the Vegas Golden Knights. Like, as much as we all like to hate the Golden Knights, they didn't do anything wrong. Ottawa did not give them the trade list. It wasn't their fault.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Felix, you did want to talk a little bit about hockey safety in general, and you had put some published some work.
Yeah. So
floor is
first
yours.
off, I want to preface this by obviously offering my condolences to Adam Johnson for and his family. Obviously, if you were not caught up, unfortunately, there was a passing of a former NHL player named Adam Johnson because of a fatal neck injury, skate blade to the neck, and ever since, there have been numerous, and honestly, kudos to the hockey world for doing this. More and more players are opting for to wear neck guards, and I believe the EIHA, the English Ice Hockey Association, was the first association to mandate neck guards. Well, they aren't gonna. That's not gonna be in effect until 2024, I believe. But Pittsburgh was, I believe, among the first to mandate their minor league players to wear neck guards, and I've seen pictures of some of their players, including Erik Karlsson, wearing neck guards as well. Look, hockey is such a fast sport. It's also such a dangerous sport, and obviously society evolves, people evolve, and our concept of safety also evolves. And so, look, if if neck guards weren't emphasized then, they sure as hell should be emphasized now, and that should go throughout hockey. And I believe I asked you about this off air, but you said the neck guards may have even been.
I believe they've been mandated now across the entire Canadian Hockey League, which would include all three junior leagues: the Western, the Ontario, and the Quebec junior leagues. But I'm not 100% on that. But I feel like I heard that was a thing.
Yeah, and I think, Felix, it's an awesome awareness and awesome to see some of the players now taking that to heart. You had TJ Oshie coming out and wearing the neck guard. You have some more players, like you had said, Erik Karlsson coming out and wearing the neck guard, and again, like you had said, you're wearing as a commentator once said, you're wearing Ginsu knives on your on your feet, and anything can happen in a sport in which you're speeding along at 25 miles an hour. You know what I mean? A leg is going to fly up, a skate is going to leave the ice, and that's
Right.
It's just a part of the game. So protect yourself as much as you can.
Yeah, and like I'm honestly, and I have an article coming up about this, by the way, as soon as it's looked over and all that. But I'm honestly surprised that these neck injuries don't happen more often, how the speed that this game goes now. And I want to ask you something, and landing into you two, Ian.
Sure.
Do either of you see more protective gear being mandated as well, including wrist guards and quite possibly maybe even reimagined plastic face shields to cover the face even?
I mean, face shields are a bit hard. Like it took so long. The problem is with the NHL is like anything else, it has to be collectively bargained, right? So the players have to want to do it, and generally that usually means getting grandfathered in, because if you look at visor, I mean helmets. Fuck, guys played without a helmet for like I remember guys playing without a helmet in my lifetime, Now, mind you, I was really young when that happened, but I mean, there was guys who played this game without a fucking bucket. Can you imagine that? I mean, and obviously visors had to get grandfathered in.
Yeah, how long did it take the last visorless player?
Fight.
Yeah.
We still have visorless players, I think. So I mean, it's a thing, unfortunately, that I think that people should want to do it, because again, I think like they made a point on the broadcast, like you're not just doing it for you, you're doing it for your family too.
Right.
I think they should, but obviously in a situation like the NHL where you do have to collectively bargain for these things, I think it'll be slow to adopt. I think in younger kids, like kids playing hockey, I think they should have to wear every piece of protective equipment available to them.
But wrap them in children. Bubble wrap, right?
Maybe not wrap them in bubble wrap, but you know what I mean? Like I think at that point, like you want to get them started young, but it's just, guys in the NHL, they're dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, they warm up without buckets, but a good amount of them. So
I mean, Marty T saying, hell, goalies didn't even used to wear helmets. I mean,
you wear masks.
You look at how long it takes.
The game's a lot faster than it was. I mean, now with those, could you imagine a guy not wearing a mask with the flex on these sticks now?
Yeah, taking 105, 108 mile an hour puck to the
left
head
and right.
Yeah. No, I mean, oh my God. I mean, Logan Couture, if we just took one podcast dedicated to the gruesome injuries of Logan Couture, I mean,
no doubt.
Exactly. So I think
the problem is like hockey is a tough sport, right? And I think there's a lot of machismo that goes with like, oh, I don't need to wear a visor. What if I take a puck in the eye? Who cares if I go blind? I'm a man. I think there's a lot of that still in hockey.
Which is unfortunate.
It's like, it's an unfortunate thing. Brett Hedeken, again, to go back to the broadcast today, right? Like Brett Hedeken didn't want to wear a visor because he had to prove he was as tough as, as an American, that he was just as tough as, the Canadian standing beside him or whatever. And it's just like, it's so dumb, right? Like to me, that's so dumb. But again, I'm not a professional athlete. What the fuck do I know? But so I understand the mentality of it, but I think it's, I don't know, man. Like, I think anything you can do to protect your vital organs, you should probably do when you're playing a game that's this fast with Ginsu knives for feet. And
the other thing too is I think you have to look at it from a bottom line perspective. You need to protect your investment, and your investments for a team, your most vital asset is the players in which that play for you. And so at the end of the day, you look at it not only from a saving a life perspective, not only from a monetary perspective, but you look at it as yes, we all know there's an inherent level of danger in professional sports.
Right.
However, if we can mitigate that and we can continue to iterate upon, the protective technologies that we have within these games, I don't think you can make the case or make the argument that player well-being is not being addressed. Now, I don't like the pace in which we adopt in the NHL. I think the NHL, like you guys said, it takes freak accidents. It takes something bad going wrong.
Unfortunately,
it took a multi-million-dollar lawsuit for the NFL to start being more proactive in the way in which it treats its players. But if hockey can come to that style of initiative without the major pain coming from a large lawsuit, I think it would behoove them to protect their players currently and to also continue to sustain the health of the veteran players that have played this game. Because Ian, you're absolutely right. It is a brutal game. Many of these players suffer many ill health effects later on in life because of their years of playing.
Just don't wear a Fanatics neck guard. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't wear Fanatics anything at this point, but yeah, I mean, you've got to take steps in order to protect yourself, and not only that, but understand the ramifications of which, if you don't protect yourself, how that could affect the people around you, how that affects you financially, and then how that's going to affect your well-being in the future.
And I do want to bring up one other point, is that, and I know this is specific, like what I'm about to mention is really just specific to Hockey Canada, but hockey has recently been given such a black eye, and to not take advantage of this would be fucking just absurd, in my opinion. You know, like to not like promote player safety, and not just like the protective gear, but also just like player safety within its programs. I think this if there is a way to promote hockey to like as many people as you can, this is it. Like, show people that you are taking care of your players, you are doing enough to take care of your players even. And I just think this is I feel really confident that this is going to be or I shouldn't say going to be, this is basically hockey's wake-up call. It needs to implement these, or else more of these types of accidents are going to happen, unfortunately. So,
well, Felix, I think that's the perfect place in which to end this conversation and to end this session of Sharks Therapy Hour. In case you missed us and you want to check us out again, check us out across all of the podcasting platforms. Smash the like and subscribe button on YouTube, and check us out on the Apple Podcast Store, the Google Play Store, the YouTube Rewind, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and Audacity. All of that and more at tealtownusa.com. Gentlemen,
Did you write something, Felix? Do you have anything to promote? Did you write something recently? Do you have something to promote?
So I'm about to, I'm sure it's going to be published very soon, but again, that the mandating player protective gear article that I've written is going to come out sometime in the next day or so. So look out for that on the website.
Yep, and I was just going to actually ask you, where can the people find you, and what were your final thoughts?
So first, my final thoughts are, well, I mean, I'm gonna steal Ian's line and say, when the Sharks do bad, it's bad. Sorry, Ian, but my final thoughts, God, don't let in 10 more next game. I don't know. Okay, but where you can find me, you can find me at Felix Talks Puck on Twitter /X, whatever you want to call it. I don't tweet as much on there. I'm trying to stay off there for the sake of my sanity, especially with other more significant events going around halfway around the world. So but feel free to hit me up and DM me if you want. But yeah.
Ian, where can the people find you, and your final thoughts?
My final thoughts, I'm going to bring out an oldie but a goodie. I mean, obviously, look, at the front office needs some stability, but fire everyone. I haven't said that in a while, have I? Other than that, you can find me at Ian Blogs Hockey on the Twitter machine. I'm more active during games than not on Twitter, but you can find me there, X, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Aside from that, I'll be back. We do this a lot. We do this after every game, actually, if you can believe that shit. So I will be back sooner than you know.
All right. Well, my final thoughts are, party like it's 1992-93. And as far as where you can find me using my first name. That's Erik, Erik, last name Landy, Landi, across all of the social media garbage. And for all of us here on the panel and for the greater Teal Town USA family, we always like to keep ending with keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal, and we'll catch you after the next game. Thank you, everybody, and have a great evening.